Daenerys is a young woman who lost her parents at birth and her brother later on, is now taking on the mission of reviving her family. After years of transformation in the foreign land of Essos, she has built a formidable army and gained the support and counsel of Varys and Tyrion. For Daenerys, power is merely a means, not an end, as she carries the weight of expectations and a sense of duty. With her own army, she sets foot on Westeros, the continent where the Seven Kingdoms conspired to eliminate her family. Dragonstone, her family's ancestral seat.
Shall we begin?
Is where she lands amidst a stormy night that stirs memories of her birth. Her father, Aerys, was nicknamed the Mad King due to his incestuous relationship with her mother, Rhaella Targaryen. On a rare stormy night, Rhaella gave birth to Daenerys, but she died from excessive bleeding and weakness. The howling of the dogs throughout the night accompanied the birth, as almost all of House Targaryen's fleet sank in the storm. Hence, Daenerys is also known as the Stormborn. However, the current state of Dragonstone doesn't feel like home to her, perhaps due to the passage of time. Tyrion assures her that they won't stay there for long. Looking at the power distribution map on the meeting table, Varys expresses concern about the chaos in the Seven Kingdoms and the lack of unity to defend against external threats. Daenerys realizes she hasn't properly thanked Varys yet. Knowing that Varys once served her father and later supported the overthrow of the Mad King, she acknowledges that he had no other choice when faced with the option of either losing his head or continuing to serve. Daenerys then remarks that Varys didn't serve Robert for long before moving on to the next king. In just 3 short years, Varys has changed allegiances 3 times, including during the reign of her brother Viserys, when he served as the Master of Whisperers and reported their whereabouts to the rulers of Westeros through his network of informants. Larys claims that he had no knowledge of Viserys having a sister before Daenerys married Khal Drogo. Despite this, Daenerys still holds resentment toward Varys for his past actions. Even though he was only carrying out orders from the king, Varys, known for his ability to hire and kill, is seen as responsible for those deeds. As the situation becomes increasingly tense, Tyrion intervenes to plead for Varys, facing the man who has changed allegiances 3 times in 3 years and is about to serve under her. Daenerys' chief intelligence officer, she realizes the complexity of the situation. Daenerys began to question and feel conflicted, but Varys, the Master of Whisperers, engaged in a conversation that made her reconsider her perception of him as a political opportunist.
When I was a child, I lived in alleys, gutters, abandoned houses. You wish to know where my true loyalties lie? Not with any king or queen, but with the people. If you demand blind allegiance, I respect your wishes. Grey Worm can behead me, or your dragons can devour me. But if you let me live, I will serve you well. I will dedicate myself to seeing you on the Iron Throne because I choose you.
And I swear this, if you ever betray me, I'll burn you alive.
I swear it, my queen.
During their discussion, a report came in from Grey Worm, informing them of a Red Priestess from Asshai seeking an audience. This Red Priestess is Melisandre, a Red Witch with partial prophetic abilities who can glean limited information about the future from flames. She is a servant of the Lord of Light, similar to other priests and priestesses from the ancient magical city of Asshai. Melisandre's purpose for coming is twofold: to aid in the upcoming conquests and to share the prophecies she has witnessed in the flames with Daenerys. According to these prophecies, a prince will bring light amidst the impending long night of winter. However, Daenerys questions whether she is the prince referred to in the prophecy, since she is not a male. Upon hearing Missandei's translation,
the prince or princess who was promised will bring the dawn.
Daenerys asked the Red Priestess, "Is the prophecy of the Lord of Light referring to me?" The Red Priestess replied, "The prophecy of the Lord of Light is about the king in the north, Snow." Upon hearing this, Tyrion is surprised, as he left the continent when Snow was just a young man who had recently joined the Night's Watch, and now he has become the king in the north. Moreover, Snow has united the free folk and the major houses of the north, breaking the tradition that had held for thousands of years. The Red Priestess believes that Snow is the chosen one of the Lord of Light and hopes to bring him together with Daenerys. She claims to have seen this in the flames. Tyrion, while not fully trusting the Red Priestess, is willing to vouch for Snow based on his own interactions with him. Furthermore, the Lannister family executed Tyrion's foster father and plotted against his brother, giving him personal reasons to join forces and wage war against the current ruler of the Seven Kingdoms.
Send a raven north. Tell Jon Snow that his queen invites him to come to Dragonstone. And bend the knee.
While her husband revels in the dance floor, she remains silent and unable to speak. Initially, the Lannister family married Cersei to the current king on the Iron Throne, Robert, in order to solidify their position. However, Robert sensed the conspiracies within the Lannister family and sought help from Eddard Stark. At the evening feast of House Stark, Snow, known as the Bastard because his mother wasn't Ned Stark's wife, met Tyrion, who also faced disapproval from his own family. Tyrion's first words didn't leave a good impression on Snow.
You're Ned Stark's bastard, aren't you?
But Tyrion, being a skilled linguist, answered Snow's question about how he would know the pain of being a bastard. Though not ill-intentioned, it only angered the young Snow further. Fortunately, Snow had an uncle, Benjen Stark, who liked him. Benjen was Eddard Stark's brother and the first ranger of the Night's Watch, since Snow felt like an outsider in his family. Even during the feast, where Eddard Stark's wife believed bastards shouldn't sit with the nobles, he had always hoped that Uncle Benjen would take him to the wall to join the Night's Watch. However, taking the oath to join the Night's Watch meant a lifetime commitment without the possibility of marriage and having children. So, Benjen advised Snow to wait a little longer. The next day, when Jaime Lannister, Tyrion's brother, learned that Snow was heading north to join the Night's Watch, he mocked him, as the Night's Watch mostly consisted of exiles, but Snow was more popular among the younger generation. Ned's youngest daughter, Arya Stark, was naturally restless and disliked the formalities expected of girls. Since Snow had decided to go with Uncle Benjen, he had a master blacksmith in the city make a sword for Arya Stark. Knowing that his brother was leaving, Arya, who shared the same sense of isolation, felt as if she was losing a loved one. Subsequently, Snow bid farewell to his younger brother, Bran. Bran accidentally discovered the relationship between Cersei and her brother Jaime when he climbed a tower out of curiosity. Fearing that the incident would be exposed, Jaime pushed Bran from the tower, causing him to suffer severe injuries and fall into a coma. However, this farewell, simple as it was, filled Catelyn Stark with disgust. After saying goodbye to his eldest son, Robb Stark, Catelyn finally walked through the door she had been avoiding for so long. Ned was invited to assist King Robert, while Snow had to go to the other side to guard the wall. At the crossroads, Ned bid farewell to Snow with a few simple yet weighty words. How can a person who is looked down upon prove their worth? The only way to elevate oneself without spending money is to read more books and broaden one's knowledge. For the mind is like a sword. It too needs a whetstone to sharpen it. And Tyrion had to go and meet the most valiant black-clad warriors of Westeros and behold the desolate walls standing in the frozen north. Amidst the harsh winter, as Tyrion inquired about Snow's plans, the relatively unremarkable Snow could only say that he was about to join the Night's Watch. He explained that their duty was to defend the realm and protect the king from wildlings and the mythical others. However, Tyrion didn't believe in such threats, claiming that the others had been extinct for hundreds of years and that such rumors were merely stories told to frighten children. When Benjen Stark returned to the wall with his group, they were awestruck by the imposing sight of the ancient structure. This rekindled their curiosity about the purpose behind constructing such a formidable defense. Upon arriving at the wall, the first thing they did was to test everyone's skills. Being a member of House Stark, Snow naturally outperformed the other recruits. However, the new training master disapproved of this privileged newcomer. Luckily, the Lord Commander, who valued Snow's abilities, promoted him to the position of a steward based on his skills rather than his administrative capabilities. Due to an incident where Snow's intervention was too heavy-handed, 3 recruits cornered him during their break, just as they were about to attack Snow. Tyrion, alerted by the commotion, entered the scene and used his family's influence to save Snow from harm. It was at this moment that Snow began to feel some regret about coming to the wall. Through conversations with the Lord Commander, Tyrion learned about Gren, who was abandoned by his parents at the age of 3, and Pipar, who stole cheese to feed his sister who hadn't eaten for 3 days, only to face the punishment of losing his hand. Both Gren and Pipar were not inherently bad individuals. The reason they rejected the exceptional Snow was their fear of lacking the opportunity for training themselves. Like watching a sunrise, Uncle Benjen Stark called Snow to the top of the wall. allowing his nephew to witness the view beyond the wall for the first time. After careful consideration, Benjen decided to inform Snow about his departure, as the first ranger and with reports of activities from the others beyond the wall. He needed to investigate, though it hadn't been confirmed yet. Facing his only family member, Snow requested to accompany him despite being unfamiliar with the surroundings. However, his uncle, knowing the perilous nature of the journey, left him with a few impactful words that would shape his life.
Here, a man gets what he earns, when he earns it.
Better to believe it exists than to believe it doesn't. Tyrion, born into a noble family, never believed in the existence of supernatural creatures in this world. He mocked the men guarding the wall, considering it just a means to secure a stable livelihood. This remark happened to be overheard by Benjen Stark, who had arrived. Benjen Stark informed Tyrion that many of the children sent here for training would meet their end beyond the wall. Some would die at the hands of wildlings, while others would succumb to freezing temperatures and diseases. It was because of their sacrifices that privileged nobles like Tyrion could live comfortably. After bidding farewell to Benjen Stark, Snow learned that the ferryman was returning to the city to bring in new recruits. He decided to accompany him back as well. At this point, Snow dropped his airs and gradually bonded with the new recruits, teaching them sword skills. Among the Night's Watch, the most respected figure was Maester Aemon. Each maester had to undergo years of study, master history, and examine all records before receiving their representative chains and returning to their respective families as maesters. However, due to the fall of the Mad King, he, bearing the same surname as Daenerys, joined the Night's Watch. Maester Aemon informed Tyrion that the approaching winter night might last for a long time. The Lord Commander also mentioned that many captured wildlings claimed to have seen the others beyond the wall. Despite this, Tyrion remained unconvinced. The Maester hoped that Tyrion would support the Night's Watch when he returned home by seeking assistance from his sister. If the pitch-black winter arrived without proper preparations, the consequences would be dire for everyone. As Tyrion prepared to leave, Snow couldn't understand why he felt a hint of reluctance. Perhaps it was because Tyrion had saved him or because he was the only person Snow could communicate with. Snow asked Tyrion to greet his awakening brother, Bran, when passing by his home.
Take care, Snow.
Farewell, my lord.
Samwell Tarly, a new member of the Night's Watch, faced relentless bullying from his fellow recruits.
Please, no more!
Kind-hearted Snow intervened, and the instructor ordered the remaining 3 to confront Snow. However, as commoners, they were no match for Snow. The embarrassed instructor had no choice but to assign the 3 to cleaning duty. Observing Samwell Tarly, who admitted to being a coward but desired friendship, Snow felt a sense of helplessness. During their night watch, Samwell Tarly mentioned his poor eyesight and fear of heights. Snow questioned why he had joined the Night's Watch when he was afraid of fighting, had poor eyesight, and fear of heights.
On the morning of my 18th name day, my father came to me. "You're almost a man now," he said. "But you're not worthy of my land and title. Tomorrow, you're going to take the black, forsake all claim to your inheritance and start north." He said, "Then we'll have a hunt, and somewhere in these woods your horse will stumble, and you'll be thrown from your saddle to die."
Witnessing Samwell Tarly's equally tragic fate, Snow silently accepted him as a friend. The next day, Snow revealed that Samwell Tarly had come to the Night's Watch because he had been abandoned and had nowhere else to go. No matter how the instructor commanded, they must not bully Samwell Tarly. In this way, the 4 of them were ostracized by the other recruits due to their sympathy for Samwell Tarly. The ringleader, Rast, threatened to teach Samwell Tarly a lesson during training. However, that night, Snow and the others, accompanied by the dire wolf guarding outside the castle, gave Rast an unforgettable warning for mistreating Samwell Tarly. The next day, Rast hesitated to act despite the instructor's orders, but as the instructor insisted on taking matters into his own hands, Rast reluctantly made a show of it. Infuriated, the instructor called upon Gren, but Gren's performance was even more exaggerated. The enraged instructor grabbed Snow, but due to his position, he couldn't confront Snow. When they were tasked with cleaning duty, the infuriated instructor, in order to protect his authority from being challenged, started telling them stories to broaden their horizons.
You don't know cold. Didn't have enough to feed them, to keep them warm. But later when we started to fall, soft, fat boys like you, we'd have lasted a fortnight on you and still had bones left over for soup. But you'd be fools to believe it. You're boys still. And come the winter, you will die. Like flies.